Tonight's bedtime lesson is there's going to be about 2 bedtime lessons tonight, maybe 3 if we get the chance. Our first one is about 2 parts: Constellations and Conjunctions. And the second lesson in the next video will be about the different names of full moons. And the sport bedtime lesson, which is the last one, is about athletics. So, be on the lookout for them. So we're going to start with constellations. Now, what are they? Ancient cultures traced star patterns into the images, or constellations, that modern astronomers use as the basis for celestial maps, making sense of the stars. At the very birth of astronomy, thousands of years ago, people gazed up at the darkness and imagined lines stretching from star to star to create images drawn from their mythology. In our current scientific era, astronomers work with a different concept of constellations. Modern researchers divide the night sky into 88 sectors in a process that is a bit like dividing a map of a landmass into states. Each of these sectors is an area of the sky with borders that are defined by celestial coordinates, numbers based on the celestial equivalents of longitude and latitude on Earth. All 88 sectors were created to include a constellation, but there is more to a modern constellation than just one pattern of stars. Everything inside an area's border, like deep sky objects, galaxies, passing asteroids or comets, and so on, is considered to be part of that constellation. Of course, these modern constellation borders aren't visible, but on a clear night you get a good view of traditionally well-known star groupings. For example, a Big Dipper, also known as a plough, is a cool constellation. It's a formation that can be part of a larger constellation. Asterisms are often confused with constellations, but with any distinct grouping of stars can be thought as an asterism. These are usually smaller patterns that are not recognized as a constellation. The Big Dipper, also known as the Plough in the UK and Ireland, is possibly the best known asterism, made up of a group of stars in the larger constellation of Ursa Major. Who decides about constellations? Since 1919, the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, has been defining the constants in the night sky. Oh, 1 second. Anyway, at the 1928 IAU Congress, the group officially recognized 88 constellations, most of them drawn from ancient Greek astronomy. The IAU is also responsible for naming celestial bodies. With members in more than 100 countries across the globe, the organization hosts conferences, promotes research, and works to raise the profile of astronomy with the public. 12 signs of the zodiac. Zodiac, an ancient Greek word for cycle or circle of little animals, has become shorthand for a well-known set of 12 constellations. Capricorn is the goat, Aquarius is the water bearer, Pisces is the fish, Aries is the ram, Taurus is the bull, Gemini is the twins, Cancer is the crab, Leo is the lion, Virgo is the virgin, Libra is the scales, Scorpio the scorpion, and Sagittarius is the archer. During the Earth's year-long orbit, the Sun passes through these stars groupings in a band of sky that stretches about 8 degrees north and south of the ecliptic, an imaginary line that traces the Sun's annual path. Many people don't realize that the Sun also moves through a 13th constellation known as Ophiuchus, the serpent barrier, sitting between Sagittarius and Scorpius. But this sign isn't included in the zodiac because astronomers preferred to divide the ecliptic into 12 equal sections of 30 degrees each. The moon and some planets pass through these constellations too, and for most of us, this celestial movement is best known as the basis of prediction made by horoscopes. Even though they are not evidence-based, horoscopes are very popular and, ironically, have probably had the effect of boosting the profile of the science of astronomy by spreading knowledge about the constellations and inspiring stargazing in general. And finally, deep roots in history. The tradition of night sky observation that created the basis of our modern constellation system stretches far back in time. Well, before the Greeks, as long ago as 1800 BCE, Babylonian astronomers were probably the first to divide the ecliptic into 12 sections. Other ancient cultures in China, Sumeria, and Egypt have also developed their own star maps around this time. Identifying constellations have an even longer history. Possibly the oldest star map found is carving on a mammoth tusk that resembles the constellation of Orion, that is thought to be created some 32,000 years ago. Also, some of the famed caving paintings of Lascaux in France, dating in the range of 33,000 to 10,000 years old, appeared to depict Pleiades and the Northern Crown, among other star formations. And finally, our second part of this lesson is about what is a conjunction. A conjunction is when two astronomical objects appear close to each other in the sky. The body can be involved in the sun, the moon, a planet, or star. Although the objects appear to be close, this is an illusion caused by the perspective. During a conjunction, Earth forms an almost straight line with two other bodies. So from our viewpoint, it looks like they meet in the sky. In reality, however, the two bodies are separated by vast distances. A slow-moving spectacle. The sun, moon, and planets are always on the move. Technically speaking, therefore, a conjunction only lasts for an instant. There are a number of ways to define one. One way is to say that it's the moment of minimum separation between two objects as viewed from Earth. However, for sky watchers, the event plays out over a number of nights, as the two objects slide slowly past each other. Some conjunctions are particularly impressive. For instance, the Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in December of 2020 enchanted observers around the world. On the other hand, conjunctions involving the sun are impossible to observe because the sun is so much brighter than anything else in the sky. The exceptions to this are eclipses and transits. Why do they happen? The solar system is the shape of a thin disk. The Earth, the Moon, and the planets orbit the Sun is roughly the same plane. Astronomers call this plane the ecliptic. Because of this alignment, the Sun, Moon, and the 5 planets visible to the naked eye, which are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, follow the same general path as they travel across the Earth's sky. This is why the Sun, Moon, and the planets sometimes meet in the sky. These meetings are often conjunctions. But how often do they occur? Conjunctions involving the Moon happen frequently. As it circles the Earth once a month, the Moon passes each of the planets in the sky, as well as the Sun producing a new moon. The planets, on the other hand, move more slowly. A conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, for example, only happens about once every 20 years. Did you know that conjunctions have a rhythm? You can find out on the internet. Eclipses, transits, and occultations. Occasionally, a celestial object will pass directly in front of another. Depending on the objects involved, this produces an eclipse, a transit, or an occultation. When the moon passes in front of the sun, this results in a solar eclipse, which is where the term ecliptic comes from. This occurs somewhere in the world every 6 months or so. The reason for an eclipse doesn't happen every month is that the moon's orbit is slightly tilted in relation to the ecliptic, and it normally passes above or below the sun. Mercury and Venus can also pass in front of the sun, although much more rarely than the moon, producing a transit of Mercury or transit of Venus. If the moon passes directly in front of a planet or star, it is called an occultation. For instance, on April 17th of 2021, observers in South and Southeast Asia were able to see the moon occultate Mars. Occultations can be also produced by planets. On October 1st of 2044, Venus will occultate Regulus, one of the brightest stars in the sky. On rare occasions, planets can pass in front of each other. If one planet partially obscures another, the event is also known as a transit. If one planet completely covers another, it's called an occultation. Venus will transit Jupiter on November 2nd of 2065. Alas, the two planets will be very close to the Sun, meaning this event will be extremely difficult to observe. Time for our second bedtime lesson.